from one of the Middle East's oldest private equity, or rather private oil and gas companies. Joining us is Crescent Petroleum CEO Majid Jafar. Majid, very good morning to you, and thanks for coming in.
Good morning, pleasure.
So you've had a couple of days to digest the news on Brexit. I mean, how do you see it as a chief executive of an oil and gas company, as a business?
So I think despite the short-term impact on oil markets, if we look at the supply-demand balance, it's actually tightening. And I think that will continue as the year goes forward. And really, the demand growth is not from the UK and the EU or even the OECD. It's from the developing countries, in particular China and India and the Middle East itself. So I think we'll start to see oil prices creeping back up. And I wouldn't be surprised if we even hit 60 this year. The real things to watch are what happens to US shale oil supplies. Do they continue to fall? And what's happening with Chinese demand. As far as the UK, I mean, we have an office in London. It's the capital of the international oil and gas sector, particularly with capital markets, legal support, financial, and so on. And it will remain so.
So how will it affect you in any material way?
I don't think it will affect us a lot. Of course, in the short term, perhaps the oil price, the markets here, stock markets, are likely to react negatively over the next few days. It's a soft time anyway with Ramadan and the summer. Our listed affiliate, Dana Gas, of course, is on the stock market here. But in terms of our investments in the Middle East and our focus, I don't see a big impact from Brexit.
We got some numbers from the Baker Hughes rig count index. Again, that's showing an interesting development. And how does that feed into your view on where oil goes from here, oil prices?
So we saw an interesting period of stability for 4 years of $100 plus. And obviously, we're in a different paradigm now. And really, the big story was the US and North American rise in production and OPEC's decision not to chase the price, but to keep market share. We're still seeing that play out. It seems to have worked. We were at 27 at the beginning of the year, and we're now just below 50. But again, I think not enough focus is given to the demand, what's really happening in the Chinese economy, and not just the fall of growth, but the nature of that growth. Is it less energy intensive?
Hold that thought, Majid. We will continue our conversation after the break. But for now, Bloomberg Middle East markets will continue in a couple of minutes. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching Bloomberg Markets Middle East, and we are continuing our conversation with the chief executive of one of the Middle East's oldest private oil and gas companies, Majid Jafar of Crescent Petroleum. Thanks again for being with us. Let's pick off where we really stopped our conversation earlier on oil. Where are the opportunities in the region? Where do you plan to expand from here?
So after the turmoil of the last few years and also the change in oil prices and the rise in the shale industry in the US, we've seen many Western companies departing from the region because of the different perspective on risk. We're a regional company. And we've been here almost 50 years, and we're obviously here to stay. And fundamentally, half the world's oil and gas resources are still in this region, probably more than half, because it's still very underexplored. And yet less than a third of oil exports and less than a sixth of the gas exports. So there's still a lot of opportunity in the region. Iraq is a big growth area for us now, and we see in the future. And there are some good opportunities in North Africa and potentially in Egypt as well.
Majid Jafar, it's Anna in London. I wonder if you could tell me, we were talking about Brexit a little earlier on there and the impact it would have on your business. Stepping away from the immediacy of your business, but thinking about the business people you come into contact with daily, how much appetite do you think there will be from the Middle East to spend time in London, to invest in London, to invest in property in London? Do you think that carries on regardless of a Brexit? I mean, you must talk to people about that sort of thing in terms of the time they spend here in Europe.
Sure, I think you'll still see that. In fact, many might view it as a buying opportunity, given the weaker pound. And it's potentially the biggest buying opportunity in terms of real estate since before the 2008 economic crisis. So I think London is still going to be an important safe haven And in terms of my business as well, it's still the international capital of oil and gas, and its membership of the EU isn't dependent on that.
Majid, closing question. The challenges that you have been facing are many. Could you run us perhaps through some of the progress or lack thereof that you've been making when it comes to the arbitration in Iran and in Iraq? What's the latest there?
Sure. Well, the arbitrations were really to confirm our long-term contractual rights, and we've won both of them. We have ongoing damage claims, and in the meantime, settlement discussions to resolve them at the request of the government, which is key, which is good. Now, in our region, the challenges aren't below the ground in the cost of production. They're above the ground. Things like respect for contract by governments, delayed payments, something we face in Kurdistan and in Egypt.
Yeah.
But fundamentally, we need to reform energy subsidies as well.
We'll have to wrap it there. Majid Jafar, CEO of Crescent Petroleum. Thank you again.